morning. Like I like throwing on like something inspirational, like Alan Watts. Like on seeing things like way like outside the box than normal people, bro.
Right.
Like, you know, things ain't so serious as you think they are, and people take in things a lot worse or negative than they shall. Anything he says, bro, it's like he could look up on any topic like love or life, and it's just like breaks it down. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. All is good, bro. Like all is good as long as you know like who you are,
right,
and like you're intertwined with yourself. Like all is gonna be good, and like that's what people like forget. They forget to be like. They always try to please other people, but at the end, once you find yourself, you good.
Welcome back to another episode. That was a small clip from the 9 Club. That was it's a podcast that I was watching quite a bit, and that was from an episode in 2017 with Boo Johnson. And you know, this episode is just kind of about you know, the things that we get into in life. You know, the things that we're passionate about, the things that we follow through with. You know, a lot of those things, you know, if they're positive in our lives, they continue to feed us, and we continue to get motivation from them if we can continue to go to them, you know what I mean, and continue to grow with them, with us. And that's what skateboarding's been for me. That's what hip-hop's been for me. You know, those are some things that we talk about a lot in this podcast, you know, this in the Grown Man Cypher. But so this is just one thing, you know, just inspiration is always out there. Is something that I've learned in my almost 40 years. Sometimes it's not readily available. Sometimes it's not just, you know, saying, here I am. You know, you got to kind of want it, you know, because it depends what your mind is focused on, you know. If you're thinking about negative things, you know, that's where your mind is landing, then, you know, it's going to have a hard time searching out those blessings that life wants to give you. Because I truly believe that life wants to bless you. You know, but I also believe that we make our own bed a lot of the times. And if we're not putting those positive things out there and, you know, into the world, then we're not getting back. We're getting back what we put out. So, yeah, so I just for this episode, just kind of a small bit, you know, and it's a few different parts to it, you know. I'm going to get into some Alan Watts, you know, and, you know, some of the things that I've learned from him, the things that's made me think about. But I played that little clip before the episode, Boo Johnson talking about Alan Watts, just because that was kind of the catalyst for me. I was watching that podcast, you know, and that was like a transition. 2017, I was still going through some transition in my life at that point. And, you know, I was definitely looking for some motivation or some encouragement, something, you know, to kind of, something to chew on, something to like, you know, think about, something to move forward and grow. And I'm always inspired, you know, just by skateboarders, because even though we're all individuals, you know, there are similarities, I think, in the way we think and we kind of look at life, just because we skateboard, and, you know, the way we look at terrain, the way we look at things. And, you know, there's definitely, I think, similarities that run through all skaters. So when I was listening to this podcast, you know, it was just resonating with me, and just I just liked the vibe that he was giving off and talking about, you know, just kind of how his approach was. And then when he mentioned Alan Watts, I was like, man, you know, they talked about that for a minute. I was like, you know, let me check that out, because that name does sound familiar, you know. And, you know, I'm definitely not on the tip of like some crazy spiritual gurus. But, you know, when I did check out Alan Watts, you know, he considers himself a spiritual entertainer. And I thought that was really cool. And also just the things he got into. I mean, it was definitely eye-opening, and it was very thought-provoking. And it's definitely been a huge turning point in my life. It was just one of those things that comes along, you know. And so I'm going to get into Alan Watts, but one of the main points here is just that we need to be open as we're going along our lives and doing things, because like I was saying earlier, that the world and life, the universe does want to bless us. And if we're putting those good vibes out there and we're looking for those signs, you know, they will be there. It doesn't mean every day is going to be a win, but there is inspiration out there. You know, you might be coming off a wave and being like, man, you know, like that last year, I just can't top that. That's over. I mean, I just can't imagine anything greater than that, you know. I've definitely been there a few times thinking like, wow, you know, like the prime days of skateboarding when everybody had more time to skate. You're skating with the homies like 6 days a week, you know, back in the day. That doesn't happen so much anymore when you're grown and you got grown man responsibilities, you got kids and you got work, you know. It's just, you're not skating 6 days a week, 8 hours a day with your friends. So, you know, all these different stages in life, you know, they take some time to get over because, you know, hopefully, you know, something's popping up for you right away and you're moving on to the next stage because something's popping up. But sometimes you got to go after that inspiration and find that next little, you know, nugget or gem that's going to, you know, provoke your thoughts and get you going and moving to that next stage in your life. So there is one saying, I forget who it is. I think it was it was an author, but he said sometimes you have to go after inspiration with a sledgehammer. So sometimes you got to chase it down. You know what I mean? Especially if you're kind of in a lower part or just going through something at that time in your life. You know, sometimes you gotta go after it a little bit more. And then, you know, when you're in your zone and you're paying attention to the signs and you're seeing them, then I mean, you can really get in that zone too. So it's two sides to it there, but sometimes you got to go after it. So on the topic of Alan Watts, you know, after I started to dive into that, one aspect that he talked about was that who we are, he feels escapes us without our interactions with the outside world. So we tend to feel that we are an ego encapsulated in a bag of skin, traditionally maybe in Western thought, you know. I'm so-and-so, I live here, I work here, that's who I am, you know. And that starts at an early age. You're born, you're given a name, you're reaffirmed that that's who you are your whole life, you know, and you're around your friends and they get to know you to be a certain way. And not that you don't change and grow, but, you know, you get to be known as kind of a certain personality, a certain character. And that becomes kind of an ego in a sense. It doesn't mean you're egotistical, but that tends to be, you know, who you feel you are. When you know, but when you're born as a baby, you don't really know. You don't have a name yet. You're just you just are. And then the blanks just kind of get filled in for us as we grow up. But if you think about it this way, and it seems very simple, but it was something that really kind of made me change the way I looked at things, was that every inside has to have an outside. So, you know, we say that I eat, I walk, I talk, you know, all these certain things that I do, you know, I breathe, you know, these things that we feel that we control and that we do. And then there's a lot of things that we don't understand that we do that we don't exactly take credit for, like beating our heart, pumping blood through our veins. I mean, several things that we do, you know, this our nervous system. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are going on, and we don't always take credit for those things, but we do take credit for some things. And we feel that what we are sometimes is separate from other things. You know, we're separate from, you know, other people. We're separate from that car. We're separate from the sky. We're separate from trees. We're not, you know, we're all into these little, our own items per se in the world. But the way Alan Watts made me think about it is that just simple, that is like, you know, in order to be a human, you know, you need several things. You need to have air to breathe. You know, you need to have food to eat. To even have, you know, you could go as simple as to even do anything. You need ground, physical ground to stand on, to have this whole play of life, you know, and you need many things to just be a human. So it's not just your heart and your skin and all these things that make you human. If there wasn't trees and in our solar system and our planet wasn't aligned in the way that it is to where, we has a temperature that humans can live in, and food can be grown, and water and trees grow that give us air to breathe. If all these things were in place, there wouldn't be humans on planet Earth. So really, we're just as much what's outside of us as we are inside of us. But we can tend to get hung up on our egos and forget that, what's outside us is a part of us. And I think that's the real, wondrous cosmic connection with us, the universe, and God ultimately, you know what I mean? Is that, like in, Hindu beliefs, if Alan Watts had this saying where someone in Western society, maybe someone kind of goes crazy, has the idea, and they say, I'm God, and they really feel like they are God. And, and say they come across someone who's Hindu and they say, I'm God, and they say, well, yeah, congratulations, so is everybody else. So it's kind of like, whether you want to call it the universe or God, we're made out of something. And just like we feel we're inside, our outsides are just as much a part of us. And everything is really balanced in this universe, regardless of what happens here on planet Earth. I think a lot of the problems we see are because of our egos and forgetting, who we all are really. And so that's just a small little bit. I'm not going to get too into it because I'm definitely not some spiritual leader or anything like that. I'm just an old skater, likes hip hop music, listens to some Alan Watts, so doing a podcast, and hopefully bringing you guys some value. So definitely hope you guys all have a good one.